My fellow Metroid fans, boy, have we had quite the year of 2025. We are now in late August, and still Nintendo is telling us Metroid Prime 4 is coming out in 2025. But we're all itching to know when. When is it coming out? We're getting so close to the end of the year, and this game needs time for people to get excited, for people to adjust their schedules, adjust their budgets too, to be ready to buy this game when it launches. It needs marketing to promote it. It needs all kinds of time to get us all simmered up and ready to jump on it. And we still don't have a release date. Well, I'm a little frustrated and skeptical in some ways, but some of you are getting way, way out of hand. All right, let's take a look at some things that we've been seeing online lately. So there's this one post, this guy, either on Twitter or Blue Sky, I don't know, I don't use either of those. This one guy, about a week ago, on August 19th, said, referring to Kirby Air Riders, he said, Air Ride 2 should be delayed for 8 more years until the Switch 3 is out. LOL, then we'll see how impatient Metroid fans are being. And then you have another post, looks like Facebook or Blue Sky, I don't use either, I don't know. This other guy says, not watching that Kirby Air Riders Direct purely out of spite. Metroid Prime 4 was announced 8 years ago. Alright guys, I get it. It's frustrating to see another game grab more attention than Metroid, especially after all this time we've been waiting, but I have two pieces of advice to all of you. One, grow up. Two, chill out. Okay? Referring to Kirby Air Riders, the first game came out in 2003 on the GameCube. That was the only dedicated Kirby game on the GameCube. And I know that we've been getting more Kirby games as of late, but Kirby Air Riders is a different kind of game than your general Kirby, alright? It's like... Excuse me, that was a big burp. I'm a fan of Mario Kart, Mario Party, but I really don't care much for the mainline Mario games. I remember playing Super Mario Odyssey, played it all the way through, and thought, that was okay. It's just not my thing. The same way that someone might like the Metroid Prime games, but not care much for the 2D Metroid games. That's exactly how that works with Kirby Air Riders. So guess what? All the fans of Kirby Air Ride have been waiting since 2003 for a sequel. So 22 years, and now they're finally gonna get it. So instead of being angry that other fandoms are getting new games out, be happy for them. Be excited for them. If there's any fandom among all the Nintendo fandoms that should have a certain level of respect and joy for other groups, it's Metroid fans. We have survived through 2 hiatuses, 2 pauses in the Metroid cycle. First one started in 1994. Super Metroid came out. It was critically a smash hit, sold pretty well in America. Didn't sell overall very well. It was like 1.4 million copies. So not as I think it sold less than the previous 2 games, despite being an incredible game that in a lot of ways still holds up really well. I didn't get my hands on Super Metroid until 2012 when I was in college and played it on my computer. I played it with mouse and keyboard. That was a rough experience, but oh my gosh, I was loving that game, despite having the worst control scheme set up. I was like, oh my gosh, Super Metroid has aged so well. And anyways, we had that hiatus. The word was going around that Super Metroid was so good that Nintendo, specifically Sakamoto, was like, dang, I don't really know how to top that right now. He tried making it on the Nintendo 64. I think he was trying to push it into 3D and just couldn't really figure it out. Because all the other games were making their way to 3D. You had your Zelda, your Mario. technically Star Fox, even though the original Super Nintendo game played the same way as like an on-rail flying shooter. But yeah, there was that 8-year break between Super and Fusion. And of course, Metroid, I was young. I didn't even know Metroid existed at that point. But I imagine the older Metroid fans who had been around since the first game were like, dang it, where is Metroid? And then we got it. In 2002, we got 2 games back to back. And then from 2002 to 2009, we were getting fed so well. Metroid Fusion, Metroid Prime, Metroid Zero Mission, Metroid Prime 2 Echoes, Metroid Prime Pinball, Metroid Prime Hunters, Metroid Prime 3. Like, holy cow, we're doing so great. In 2009, Metroid Prime Trilogy, probably the best deal you could imagine. That's when I really got into Metroid myself, is getting the Trilogy collection on Wii. I was like, oh my gosh, these games are amazing. This plays so great. How are there not more games like this? We ate so well, and we were so happy, and we were also happy to see other franchises doing pretty good too. Like me, I also liked Halo. Around that time, Halo was doing great on the Xbox 360. Halo was getting back-to-back games. You got your Halo 3, your Halo 3 ODST, your Halo Wars, your Halo Reach, your Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary, your Halo 4. So it was so great. Well, then in 2010, Sakamoto's magnum opus, his greatest game ever made, Metroid Other M, came out. As a teenager, that was the worst $50 I had spent in my life. I mean, one key reason why I hated that game is I loaded it into my Wii, and for whatever reason, my Wii struggled to like pick up that game was in its, like the disc was in the console. So I'd have to eject, push it back in, eject, push it back in, probably about like 20 times until it eventually caught on. So that alone was like, I hate this game. And that's a whole nother video unto itself. Like, I'm gonna put out a review of that game. I'm gonna play through it again soon, see how well or how poorly it's aged. Well, then we hit another hiatus. We went through almost a decade of just the franchise doing better than ever before, to the franchise just falling over, almost dead, all because of one bad game. Yeah, another hiatus. And we sat there and waited, thinking, hey, maybe the Wii U might be good. I guess not. 3DS, maybe, I don't know. And then 2016, Federation Force. That poor game. Federation Force is a good game if you play it co-op with friends. I got the chance to play it with a few guys before the 3DS servers were shut down, and I was really enjoying it. So I personally think that if Samus Returns had come out in 2016, people have been like, holy cow, Metroid's like making a comeback, this is awesome. And then they announced in 2017, Metroid Prime 4 is coming on the Nintendo Switch. By the way, here's a spin-off multiplayer game. Then we would have loved Federation Force. It was all timing. It was a good game hit by really bad timing, because at that time, Metroid needed a more solid comeback, like back to its roots after Other M. For the most part, really abandoned a lot of those things. Well, now here we are with Metroid Prime 4. We've been waiting since that summer of 2017, since it was announced. 2019, we got an announcement saying, hey, we're restarting progress, handing it to Retro Studios, which is good. Way better than a cancellation. They could have been like, hey, it's just not going to happen, bye. Because we're all very aware that Metroid really hasn't sold well compared to other franchises, like, at all. Like, the only close comparison you could say is Metroid Prime 1 on GameCube. Like, yeah, the GameCube only sold about 21 million units, but almost 3 million people had their hands on Metroid Prime, so that's over 10% of the player base on GameCube. That's actually pretty big. I think the Zelda Wind Waker only did a little bit better than that, so it's like, sure, it took a pretty... I love the GameCube. I think the GameCube had amazing games. Definitely an underrated generation, especially if you look at the sales numbers, but it took Nintendo to be at one of its lowest points for Metroid to finally look really good. So that's the unfortunate reality. And I think it's just because it's a pretty stark difference, just the style of game that Metroid offers these days, especially the more kind of mature tone, I would say, compared to the likes of Zelda and Mario being a little more fanciful and fun and bright colored. Like Metroid, it's just like the tone of what you expect out of your typical Nintendo fans, especially kids, doesn't match well with the tone that a game like Metroid offers. So that's my take on why Metroid historically hasn't sold very well. Especially considering the first couple games were inspired by the first two Alien movies. Like, the first Alien movie is terrifying. I only got around to watching it a couple years ago, and I thought, holy cow, this holds up so well for like a 50-year-old movie, 1979? It's amazing how great that movie still looks and feels. I was terrified. And then the second one is also really good, still terrifying. Definitely more action-packed. You introduce a lot of Marines and a lot of more gunplay, and way more aliens, too, in the fight. But still, like, just as good and terrifying. So, just right there, the source material, the inspiration, is already at a much more grizzled, darker tone. And so, I imagine the developers trying to kind of kidify is the wrong word, but maybe almost censor that really mature, like, tone that the Alien movies offer into a video game. Yeah, I imagine that's kind of hard to, like, try to keep up with a lot of those same themes and feelings. It's like, okay, well, now we got to play this down to, like, the taste of children. And I still think just a lot of children, especially Nintendo fan children, just don't really have that taste, and that's fine. Everything is pretty subjective. Well, I lost my train of thought. Anyway, Metroid Prime, huge breakthrough. Retro Studios goes on to make a couple more games. Those are both awesome. And that's just the thing, is like right now, Retro Studios has their hands. The moment Retro Studios was given Metroid Prime 4 is when I was like, okay, well, the game's going to be great. Like, it's going to be awesome. I'm not worried about it anymore. And then we sat and waited and waited. And I know we got Metroid Dread in that meantime. I'll get back to that later. But Metroid Prime fans, kind of like I said with Kirby Air Riders, it's a different sort of group within the Metroid fandom. Is some people like the 2D games, some people like the Prime games, some people like both. I like both. I like the Prime games a little bit more. But we just kept waiting, and people started getting impatient, saying, oh my gosh, when are they going to give us anything? Like, oh my gosh, they're still hiring for it. So, like, no chill at all. People also kept saying, oh, well, the older games only took like 2 or 3 years to make. Why is this taking so long? It's like, well, because high definition graphics. Like, there's so much more work that goes into games today. Like, gosh, just using God of War as an example. The first God of War game came out in 2005 on the PS2. And then they had God of War 2 out a couple years later, also on the PS2. Games back then were just way simpler to make, because the graphical detail, they just knew how to get a really good art style that holds up. I played the God of War franchise through, early 2023, and the first 3 games really hold up pretty well. I still think the first game is underrated. I think a lot of that has aged really well. It's kind of like its own specific story. But anyways, yeah, like, it takes way longer now, just because we as humans have not evolved in the same way that our computer hardware has. Like, we still have to sit down and plug in every single detail on the character models, on the environment, on the heads-up display. Like, it takes time because there's so much more detail going on, and they want to make it look great so that we can enjoy it right off the bat. Well, we kept waiting, and then early 2023, late 2022, there was the rumored, Metroid Prime Remastered is going to come out on the 20th anniversary of the first Metroid Prime. And that didn't happen. We didn't get that remaster in November of 2022 like we were hoping. But February 23 comes around, Nintendo says, hey, guess what? Metroid Prime 1 has been remastered, and it is coming out digitally right now. It'll come physical in a few weeks. And that was awesome. That was great. Like, holy cow, Metroid Prime Remastered. This is the best, like, I think it's the best looking Switch game to date. Probably the best looking Nintendo game overall. Like, holy cow, that, like, you can see in this gameplay footage, the details are so good. Just the attention to detail on everything. And this is when any fears that I had for this game were cast to the side. Like, for Metroid Prime 4 specifically, because I was worried that they were going to make a very cartoony art style, kind of like Breath of the Wild, to compensate for the Switch's lack of power, but no, they did it. They did really good at making it look kind of true to life, like almost like you are right there in it in the real world. And then I was like, okay, Metroid Prime 4 is going to look great, because they took their time to train up all these new developers to be ready for Metroid Prime 4. And that's what a lot of studios do, is they have a new game idea. They're like, okay, this is great, but we got a bunch of new hires for developers. They don't really know how to work our engine yet. Let's have them remaster one of our older games, like The Last of Us with Sony. The first game, it got that remake, I think, in late 2022 that nobody asked for. But it's because they had a bunch of new hires who had to make, like, they had to get practiced with the engine and the tools that Naughty Dog uses to make their games. Same with, what else? The Horizon team. Like, Horizon Zero Dawn got a remaster that nobody asked for. And that's because, I think it's Guerrilla Games as a studio. They're like, okay, we're making Horizon 3. We got a bunch of new hires. We need to train them up on how to work with our game. So here, we'll go remaster the first game. Awesome. Now you guys can come work on Horizon 3 with us, like with the pros. And so that's basically what happened with Metroid Prime 4, is that they had a bunch of new hires. They had to get them trained up, go remaster Metroid Prime 1, and then come join the pros. And it's awesome. We got that reveal of Metroid Prime 4, and any and all fears, like whatever last speckle of fear I had, was gone at that point. It's like, this game looks great, it's gonna play great, it's exactly what I want. They didn't completely reinvent the wheel. Like, I know a lot of Zelda fans don't like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom because of how much they departed from a lot of traditional Zelda things that were established from, like, well, I mean, even from the first game, there was, you know, it wasn't completely open world. From the first game, you had to find the ladder to open up parts of the world, and then later on you had to find the raft to get to other parts of the world, and so you had to go to each respective dungeon to find that tool so you could open up the rest of the world. Well, so I understand a lot of people's grievances with that. I personally enjoyed Breath of the Wild, not a perfect game. Tears of the Kingdom, didn't like that game. That's a review for another day. So it made me a little worried about Metroid Prime 4. But like I said, when Metroid Prime Remastered came out, it wasn't Metroid Prime Remake, where it's like, hey, let's make it more open world. It's like, hey, it's the exact same game with way better graphics, multiple control schemes, and some tuned up music and sound design. So all my fears were put at rest with Metroid Prime Remastered. It's like Retro Studios and Nintendo trust that this game and this gameplay style still holds up today, and that it doesn't need to be tweaked to appeal to the people who are more demanding open world. So Metroid Prime 4, the game's not out yet. So far it's looking like it's going to play like a Metroid game, where it's like, hey, you're starting off with very little revealed. You have open exploration, but not necessarily open progress. Like, there is more so a linear progress that you have to follow. So you just go romping around until you find dead end, dead end, dead end. Hey, I can keep going down this pathway. Alright, you have a new ability. Now go look at those dead ends you had before. Can you make it through that dead end now? Yes, I can. This dead end is now a pathway I can make it through. That's the exploration. That's the gameplay style of Metroid. Because open world, there is no dead end to begin with. Like, maybe you do the tutorial level. Once you're done with tutorial, the world is yours to explore. Nothing's really a dead end. You can find some ways to make it through. Like Zelda Breath of the Wild, if you wanted to go straight from the plateau to Death Mountain, yeah, you're probably going to be burning to death all the time, but if you find enough fruit that you can eat, as you're up there burning to death, you just keep eating fruit to keep yourself alive. You kind of brute force your way through that part of the game that you're not necessarily ready for. You can't do that with a Metroid game. You can't just brute force your way through an area where, oh, I don't have my Varia suit. Like, no, the game is going to progressively kill you before you have the Varia suit going through the hot zones. Like, you're not going to get enough health pickups to make up for that. Well, anyways, now people are getting really antsy about Metroid Prime 4. People need to chill. We've been waiting a long time, and we can wait longer. I mean, we're still, you know, between the reveal of Metroid Prime 4 to now, we have gotten Samus Returns. We have gotten Metroid Dread, which we thought was dead and not going to happen at all. To me, that was kind of a bigger deal than Metroid Prime 4, because that's saying like, hey, Nintendo's saying, hey, let's just bring back Metroid in its entirety. Let's continue the mainline story where we left off. Keep going with it. Like, Metroid is effectively back. That was awesome. Like, I'm more excited for Metroid Prime 4. It's more my game, but like, for the significance of Metroid as a franchise, Dread being completed and put out was like a bigger deal. To say Nintendo really wants to give this franchise another go, to let it continue. Metroid Prime Remastered, early 2023. We're sticking with this gameplay style, with this good old 3D Metroidvania style. We're making the graphics look really good, and we now have all our people trained up. And so, we get to March of 2025 of this year, and Nintendo puts out, hey, new gameplay trailer. Look at Samus' new psychic abilities. She can use it to open doors. Which is just so funny, because we're so used to just blasting doors open. And what happened at the end of that? 2025. Release date 2025. And I get the frustration with that. I was expecting a release date at that point. It's like, okay, well, the Switch 2 is going to have its own dedicated Direct soon. So maybe that's where we're going to end. And then we get that Switch 2 Direct, and still it's like, hey, Metroid Prime 4 is going to have a Switch 2 edition with updated control schemes, mouse mode, improved graphics. You can choose 60 frames 4K or 120 frames 1080p. But still no release date. And so we're like, what's going on here? And now here we are. People are we just need to chill. Retro Studios has it, okay? Like, we are not entitled to a release date. Like, I've seen people on social media within various Metroid groups being like, oh, this is garbage, I hate this, like, Nintendo owes us an explanation. No, I'm afraid they don't. Nintendo really doesn't owe us anything. Another guy, he's just like, oh, like, I love these games, my dad has cancer, like, I really hope they release it soon. And that, I get that. That's scary to know, like me and my dad will play together, but that post itself wasn't bad, because I get it, but another post is like, oh, well, start making a noise on social media, and maybe Nintendo will cave into pressure. No, that is like a child kicking and screaming. Like, I have my kids, if they ever scream at me to think they're going to get what they want, no, they get less of what they want. That's not how we're doing it, guys. We need to grow up a bit. We need to understand Nintendo is going to get this game out eventually. So long as it still comes out on Switch 1, then I'm happy. Because I just don't really care to get a Switch 2 yet. Be patient, guys. The game is coming. We're going to get in our hands soon enough. In the meanwhile, I am going to go play through the original Metroid games for the first time. And give my reviews of it. And put out some videos of that. So, I'll see you guys later.